As you age, what happens to our bones? They lose density over time. The mineral content of our bone depletes over time. There's foods that we eat that actually strip minerals from our bone. If we're not getting sufficient vitamins and minerals when we're younger, when we're older, we pay for it because our bones don't have the density that they used to. They're fragile, they're brittle, they break more. So Bone Fortify is one of those products that you should start taking young and continue taking for the rest of your life. If you start young, you're never going to have problems with brittle bones, with your bone, with not having enough minerals in your bone. If you haven't been taking it, but you start when you're older, you're going to have much less problems with these types of issues. So what is it about Bone Fortify that makes it great? There's a few things. The types of minerals that are in there are not cheap, low-end minerals. So calcium, for example. Calcium is a key component of bones, obviously. It's a key component of Bone Fortify as well. The form of calcium that's in there is a calcium citrate malleate. That's basically a calcium with a bunch of big organic ligands attached to it. And the reason why these big organic acids that it's attached to is important is because they help it be more soluble. If I have something like calcium carbonate or calcium hydroxide, I have minimal solubility when it gets into water. And when I have that minimal solubility, I have less bioavailability. That means my body's actually extracting less calcium out of my supplement, my food, my tablet, whatever, than it otherwise would if it was more bioavailable. So we have very bioavailable forms of calcium. The same thing would be true of magnesium. We use magnesium citrate, which is a pretty classic magnesium for these types of products. Magnesium on its own tastes terrible. Most magnesium salts taste terrible. Magnesium citrate is one of the only ones that's actually tastes good, or reasonably good anyway. And it also has good bioavailability. And for those two reasons, magnesium citrate is a key piece of this puzzle. There's a lot of products out there that contain calcium. There's a fair number of products that contain calcium and magnesium. But one thing that you need to have when you're taking calcium is vitamin D. Your body doesn't really deal well with calcium unless you're supplementing with vitamin D at the same time. So vitamin D is critical to have whenever you have a calcium supplement. And even the vitamin D is one of those things that a lot of people realize that you need to have vitamin D and calcium together. So there's a lot of supplements that have both of those. And I just want to pull back a second and just mention vitamin D deficiency is a huge thing in the United States. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. And vitamin D deficiency is really tough to go through. It's really hard on your mood. It's hard on your energy levels. So just for the sake of the vitamin D, Bone Fortify is a great product to be taking. It's got great amounts of vitamin D, and it's really going to help just in that one area. Magnesium deficiency is another major issue. Even if we're not talking about bone health, we should be supplementing with magnesium. And this gives you a significant amount of high quality magnesium so that you don't have to worry about the lack of energy, the poor sleep, all of these other things that come with magnesium deficiency. Magnesium is one of those elements that we desperately need in our body because it's utilized in all sorts of enzymes and all sorts of reactions in our bodies. So if we don't have enough of it, we're going to be really feeling the effects of that deficiency. Now, one of the things about Bone Fortify that is a little bit more unique to Unicity is vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is, so there's a protein that vitamin K2 is responsible for. You need vitamin K2 to synthesize this protein. The protein's called osteocalcin. And this protein, it transports calcium. It's basically localized in bone tissue, and it can transport calcium in and out of bone tissue. So it's critical for our bone health. But osteocalcin also plays a role in several other areas of our health. Osteocalcin is actually a hormone-like molecule. When it comes out of the bone into the rest of our system, it can actually help with blood insulin levels. It can help balance our blood lipid levels. There's all sorts of effects, hormone-like effects, even energy levels that osteocalcin plays a role in. So if we don't have vitamin K2, not only are we not making the most out of the magnesium and the calcium that we're supplementing with, we're also running the risk of not having sufficient levels of osteocalcin in our bones that can be used as a hormone molecule, a signaling molecule throughout the rest of our body. Osteocalcin is so critical as far as bone formation goes. There's drugs that you can take, pharmaceutical drugs that you can take for increasing the density of your bones. And the way that they measure the effect of those drugs is by measuring the osteocalcin levels in your body. So this is critical for understanding bone density and understanding how your bones are building and how dense your bones are. But it's also critical for many other areas throughout your body. So those four pieces, the calcium, the magnesium, the vitamin D, and the vitamin K2 are all critically important. Then we add a fifth piece that is boron. And boron is a trace element that our body requires that the vast majority of the United States is actually deficient in. And in order to make the best use of the other minerals, the calcium, the magnesium, we need the boron. That's the reason why it's in there. All these things work together to increase our body's ability to utilize these vitamins and these minerals. And that's what makes Bone Fortify so unique. There's also a few other trace minerals in there, but those are the key pieces of the picture. So Bone Fortify, if we're worried about our vitamin D levels, which we really should be worried about because the majority of the US is deficient in vitamin D, and that's the US. The US is a wealthy country that is less deficient than most places in the world because we're wealthy. We get a lot of good food, we get a lot of food. The poorer countries, the more rural countries, more rural areas in those countries tend to have even more vitamin and mineral deficiency areas. Vitamin D is critical. It will boost our mood. It will make us feel better. It allows us to utilize the minerals that are in Bone Fortify more effectively. So just for bone health, Bone Fortify is great. Also, for the osteocalcin levels, increasing with vitamin K2, for our vitamin D deficiency problems, for our magnesium deficiency problems. Bone Fortify is a top tier, unique Unicity type of a product that solves all of these issues.
That was absolutely fantastic. I love the way you break everything down, Mike, to make it, your scientific mind makes everything great for the layperson like myself. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Other thing that I just have to tell a little story to kind of go along with what Mike has to say. The Bone Fortify, if you look at the back, you'll see there's a stamp on there and it says Genome-ceutical. Okay, now Mike can do a whole thing on Genome-ceutical, and that we have some of our products that are actually, you know, take that, I'm not using the right word, but get that distinction. And when I was first introduced by a person on our scientific advisory board who advised me that it might be a good idea for me to try Bone Fortify for a dry eye, dry mouth situation I was dealing with. And I was like, why would I want to take a bone product to, you know, deal with that immune system? But I listened to him, and when it came out, he said, just give it 90 days, see what happens, see what changes. And I have to tell you, 10 days after being on the product, I'm at a TGI Fridays. And I'm sitting across the table from a gentleman with my iPad, and I'm going through a presentation with him. And I noticed that all these little droplets start coming out of my mouth. And as soon as my presentation is over, I run out to the car and I call my girlfriend. I'm like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. I was in this meeting and all of a sudden these droplets started coming out of my mouth. And she was like, oh my God, Kathy, I'm just so sorry. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't understand. I haven't had droplets come out of my mouth in 10 years. And in 10 days, whatever my deficiency was, Mike, it has made a big difference. So I love this product, and great product. You mentioned also prescription drugs. My gynecologist, because I'm 63 and having, you know, bone density tests over the last couple of years, she's like, you know, we're going to have to put you on a prescription for, you know, because you're losing bone. And I'm like, no prescription for this girl. And so she said, would you increase this dosage? And I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do that instead of taking a prescription. So I take 2 scoops of this every day. So absolutely fabulous, fabulous product. So